Well, he was being distracted with baloney hoaxes of Russian collusion and impeachment processes. The Federal Reserve was secretly working on a project called the Hamilton Project from the New York and the Boston Fed buildings. What I had found out and brought to the attention of certain and select members of the Congress in the United States Senate and the House was that the Federal Reserve was working behind the scenes and usurping Congress's ultimate authority to issue new money, which is currency. Even in digital form, they must get the approval of legislative body of Congress, Senate, and of course, and the House in order to send or to provide new forms of money. Well, the Federal Reserve took it upon themselves to redefine money. Instead of saying retail, being, you and I would use it, they did commercial central bank digital currency building. And so when I found out about it, I brought it to the attention of members of Congress, and they were not aware of this. And once they started doing their investigation, they figured out, holy cow, this is really happening. And it's happening under a clandestine operation called the Hamilton Project was the first. They were also working in cahoots with the Bank of International Settlements early as 2016, about the same time that Obama was getting out and Trump was getting in. And then they accelerated it during Trump's first term, fearing that they might have to get this delivered and deployed sometime if he was to win a second term. That's why they were so nefarious in their actions to try to get Trump at a position where he would not be able to get in a second term, which we now know in 2020 they cheated on the election. So with that said, let's fast forward. So during the Biden administration, Joe Biden signed an executive order. God knows he probably didn't use the real pen, but an auto pen. And he expanded, accelerated, and made sure that the central bank digital currency was being implemented or certainly being built in order to be deployed sometime either at the end of his first term or into his second term at the time before Kamala was determined to be the candidate. Now, the reason we're doing this is one reason. When you go back and you actually can look at the Affordable Care Act, listen to this. This is where it all started. It started when Obama took office in 2009, when Bitcoin became something of a novelty, and then it kind of mushroomed into where it's at. Obama wanted two things, two structural changes in the way of which the United States would go from a republic to a democracy, because it's a republic. It's a constitutional run by laws, not democracy run by what I consider to be majority of emotions. He wanted two things to happen. One, he wanted Bitcoin to be the precursor to the central bank digital currency. In order to do that, he had to get it out and get people conditioned to use it and then program them as an everyday piece of your life. It's called consumption and then adoption. So you consume it so much that you adopt it as everyday. So Bitcoin was not started by somebody in an apartment in Newport Beach, like some people think. It was started by multiple different agencies that collaborated together in order to condition people to start thinking digital. Second thing he did, which was brilliant, is, and again, this would have turned money into a communist, and I'm going to quote Senator Bill Hagerty, Tim Scott, Congressman Warren Davidson, we would have been pure communism had this central bank digital currency been issued. The second thing he did to try to, again, socialize, communize, and some people will argue back and forth, but I'm not sure what the difference is much anymore. He wanted to socialize, communize medicine and healthcare. So that's where the Affordable Care Act came. So he initiated two things that he thought would bring America's down to its knees and bring more in line and consistent with the rest of the world. Well, all of this continued to happen, and then it formulated into what we consider today to be the revolution of digital transactions. And the reason why that Bitcoin took off so much was once people realized that we were going to lose our cash transactions capabilities, checks and cash. It was a certainty, just not sure what the time was. Bitcoin became the go-to alternative form of transactionable assets. And now here we are today. And the difference between a Bitcoin or any kind of a cryptocurrency, which is completely different than a CBDC, is real simple. And I'm going to explain it so everybody can get this. Bitcoin trades on what they call a decentralized ledger or decentralized platform. Decentralized means that it can work with anonymity, it can go anywhere, and short of something nefarious in a wallet or something that would be bad, it pretty much runs its own ways of which the users at the end, from where the buyer or the seller or the person that's holding it, determines where they want it to go. Centralized systems are centralizing it in what they call like a closed loop environment. That closed loop environment allows somebody at the very top to pull a lever, where a decentral is open source. Consider it to be, can go anywhere, anytime. The owner of that asset, the Bitcoin, or if it's Cardano, or if it's XRP, whatever it may be that you trade in, those are decentralized systems, and you can push those anywhere you want. However, when you get into centralized system, that's programmable money. That means somebody at the very top centralizing the power, centralizing the money in an environment that they can determine that you're not going to spend that money. So now fast forward, here we are today, about 60% of all transactions are now what? Digital. We have been programmed to accept an algorithm as value in exchange for something of value, whether you're buying gold, a car, or you're just buying something simple at Walmart. The reason why it was a rush to market was simple. The world is changing to digital format, whether it's hybrid, central, decentral, full central, but there's very few decentral systems that are going to be running in governments, because governments can't control a full decentralized system that runs with anonymity, okay? It runs with freedom. So in Europe, come October, it's expected that they're going to launch a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. And if you go online, there's clear evidence, not only have they built this thing, but they're ready to deploy it, because it's been in beta since April. And the Bank of International Settlements, which is the bank of banks, I'm sure many of your users or listeners have gone online and probably at some point listened to various people and yourself. I know Alex and everybody and Owen, you have talked about this. We are working within an environment where about 60% of the world is going to centralize their monetary systems. We need to be ahead of that curve. And so applauding Tim Scott, Senator Hagerty, to be able to get this through. Now, in saying that, the Genius Act was a well-written bill. It had a couple things that needed to be clarified, and what they did was they clarified some additional language to prevent a central bank centralized coin or centralized digital currency to be deployed at any time in the future. Because people need to know, as good as Trump is, he's not going to be around forever. He can't be around another 20 years or 30 years as president. So the thought was, in the Clarity Act, as well as the Anti-CBDC Act, which was pretty much the House Financial Services Committee, Warren Davidson and his colleagues were in charge of making sure that the language was put into those two bills that was appropriate to prevent somebody in the future, an administration, let's just say for what it is, that would then be able to turn the tables, almost like switching a lever, okay, pulling a lever, switching a switch, and turning it in from a decentral, hybrid, central to a full central, where control could be a part of the equation. And that's the big picture, but there's more to this story as we drill down.
Well, let me try to make it understandable or processable, consumable for the average person here. It's like, how would it apply to me? If I'm somebody that is a big believer in crypto, Bitcoin or whatever it is, and ultimately the goal is to say we have an independent cryptocurrency where the government doesn't have oversight or involvement. Well, obviously, if you're the IRS or any government entity, you're thinking, well, okay, hold on a second. These government gangsters are thinking, hold on a second, where's my cut? They want their cut. When you work and get paid, they want their cut. When you buy something, they want your cut. When you own something, they want their cut. So they're always looking for a way to get their cut. So isn't that what we should be trying to avoid here? Shouldn't we be trying to avoid the government getting their cut in this process? Or is that really what this is all about? Is that the general fight here? Is that me and you can say, hey, I really like that. I really like that car that you have. And you say, oh, well, you know what? I'm actually trying to sell it. And I say, well, okay, how about 2 Bitcoin? You say, oh, okay, great. I give you 2 Bitcoin. You give me the car. The deal is done. Well, the government's going to say, hey, hold up. Where's my cut? You guys owe me some money here. Is that the general way to put this fight?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, that is a good way of explaining it, but it goes deeper than that. One of the things the Genius Act was incorporated to do was not just to stabilize the understanding and the regulation of stablecoins, which is basically a token that would back something. Okay, you have what they call stablecoin PAX, PAX. Those are gold-backed stablecoins. You have stable coins that are backed by treasuries or deposits, cash on deposit at various financial institutions or any lender now that you're going to be required to be a bank to hold third party assets or custodial accounts. The question you have here is, how does the government get its cut? Well, the Genius Act was built and written in such a way to be able to stabilize again what we are going into the next. I mean, look, this is bigger than electricity. I've said this 3-4 years ago. I've heard people actually use this again in my words. It is a revolutionary way of which to transact. And for 5,000 years, whether you use seashells or gold or silver or land, or in the case of how we bought the Manhattan Island from the Manhattan Indians, it was basically a bunch of beads from the locals. We are now going into something that is not physical. We are transitioning from the paper, the hard assets, to a algorithm. Now, the short-term value of this bill and this legislation of Genius Act, let's just talk about the Genius Act first, is to bring together the understanding that people will buy the stable coin. They will buy these. They'll be issued by financial institutions that have the license and have the right of which by the federal government's own policies and regulations to issue these stable coins. We can buy them. You buy them. I can buy them. Those then will be shored up. The money that you use to buy those will shore up the short-term treasury market. They'll be buying treasuries as a backstop to the stable coins. That would help bring interest rates down without artificially asking or trying to get the Fed to lower rates, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Then all of a sudden the rates come down. We now can ultimately see a lower deficit spending because we're not paying as much interest every day, every week, every month, what have you, on the debt, especially the short-term debt. Long-term debt is still problematic, but at least short-term we can get a handle on. And the crypto industry will be huge, and it'll bring GDP. I'm not sure the numbers yet. I'm actually working on that to see what the impact is going to be of this bill. But the bottom line is, had President Trump not won this term, let me tell you how bad it was going to get and who are the bad actors. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going to probably ruffle some feathers, but I don't really care. So if you look close at Ripple, okay, and you do your homework, go online, look at Ripple CBDC, Amazon CBDC, you look at BIS CBDC, Citibank, you look at all of these different companies, and we've got white papers on all of them that they produced, MasterCard, Visa, they all were back in the mode in thinking we're going to backstop the central bank digital currency. President Trump will not be coming back a second term. This is what their thought pattern was. It was just horrible, horrible things that they did. And President Trump knew this was going on. And kudos to him for staying the course. That shows the integrity and character of the man. And he knew he had to get into the office. This was one of his primary goals outside the big, beautiful bill, which obviously helped on the taxes and small businesses. But there were bad actors that were formulating a plan. And this is not conjecture or opinion. This is fact. And I brought this to the attention of Congress. A number of different senators got on board with the House members, and we did our homework, and we determined that this was being done and built in around Congress's own authority. And what happened then was we knew at some point that this was going to become the law of the land had Kamala won. I never thought she could win, but in the event she did, this was bad because there was an interview in February of this year where the CEO of Ripple actually was talking about this with some of his colleagues and other people within the industry, where somebody among the group had basically said clearly, had Kamala won, the platform, it's called Fed Now, was the gateway to insert a CBDC, which, mind you, was already built. The Federal Reserve had already built this thing and tied it directly into the BIS. Members of the House actually toured and went to the BIS last year and confirmed all this about a year ago and told me personally. And they said that the Federal Reserve thought that they had the authority. Even Powell said in open testimony a number of years ago, they could launch a commercial CBDC, but not a retail. And they're right. But think about this. There's like 90% of small businesses have commercial accounts. So if you go commercial, well, okay, now you got 90% of the country. And then they were going to, if Kamala won, they were going to backstop They gave her $11 million. One of the founders of Ripple, or co-founders, somebody within the Ripple organization or close to it. I want to make sure I'm very clear about this and don't overstep it. But somebody close, because it was an interview that was actually published online that we discovered, had donated $11 million to Kamala's campaign in the anticipation she would win, and then they could get this deal done. And that's why XRP is doing so well. They ultimately want centralized systems. It monopolizes financial policies. The problem is that's communism. In the words of Congressman Warren Davidson of Ohio, just today he said a CBDC is nothing but pure communism. It's programmable money that limits the owner, and not even the owner. You're just a person who might have it. The real owner is the federal government or any kind of a third-party custodial holder. So we had to get this done because the rest of the world wants to go centralized. That would have hurt us in the long run. This is going to help in so many ways. One, it's going to make our short-term debt, our treasuries, more attractive, which could very easily bring down interest rates. Second, it's going to help bring down the deficit spending, and it beats the European markets to what they were already going to be doing, which is an inevitability. They're planning on launching a CBDC this October. So people may not realize it in the front end. Okay, I've always said, like Warren Buffett, I like to kind of use some of his own words because he's very smart. You don't see everything the first day, but that doesn't mean what you don't see today isn't already in process. And that's basically how he talks about long-term investing. So I'm kind of paraphrasing it. What today's actions with the Clarity, this anti-CBDC bill, and the Genius bill, or Genius Act, all of them getting done, was incredible because it was bipartisan support. Once the Democrats realized, hey, you're not immune to this centralized system. You don't have a get out of jail card free, people. They could turn on you as easily as they turn on anybody. Anybody in the power of an administration, the auto pen proves you can almost do anything once you're in that Oval Office. So Trump did two incredible things since he's taken office. One, he passed the BBB bill. Two, he got all three of these crypto acts done. Now, there was obviously some changes to some of the wording that would better protect what this whole thing was about. And I like to think that a lot of people understood we needed that fundamental changing of some of the language to kind of tighten it up a little bit. That's what committees are for. That's what the two houses or the two chambers of Congress are for. It's like the power of people, right? The more people you have in a room, usually the generalization is that the ideas will flow better. They'll have better recognition for the understanding of the opinions of the people in the room. And that's what happened. We literally saw something that could have gone the other way quickly, but because they took the time to really understand any areas that may have had some holes in them in a way that could be exploited, because sometimes you don't see the ramifications of the bills until what Nancy Pelosi once said, let's just pass the bill and then we'll figure out what's in it. Not this time. The Warren Davidson, Mike Johnson, Trent Kelly, and there's a number of other, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, all of these people took the time to make sure the language was right. And I know there's many others, and I don't want to ever say that those were the only ones because even the Democrats jumped on this. So what I'm saying to you today is, today was a monumental day for the understanding that the United States is going to lead in digital asset transactionable tokens. And this is going to be one of the largest opportunities for investors in the crypto industry, in the AI industry, in any of the technology. Look at the chip market. This is going to make America better and greater than ever before. And it all stems by one thing, and that is we acted first.
So just to keep it simple, because you probably just spoke a foreign language to most of the audience, does it keep us? I got 20 seconds, so just yes or no.
Okay.
For two questions. Does it keep us out of a communist central bank digital currency, and does it keep the crypto market free?
Yes. Yep. And you can thank both Tim Scott and Senator Hagerty from the Senate as the authors, Warren Davidson, French Hill, and a number of others on the House side, and Mike Johnson, the Speaker.
Just got in my methylene blue, ultra methylene blue USP grade.
Hey, you know, it might sound like a good idea to lower interest rates, and it might look good in the short term for somebody that's trying to get a car loan or get a mortgage where you're sitting in the 6s and the 7s and you want to get it down to the 2s and the 3s. But he's saying, you're sitting on a giant debt bubble here, and the banks, it could be a disaster. Well, Trump may have a Trump card, and now rumors are swirling that criminal referrals could be sent to Jerome Powell. Did you know, and it's been going around, I just hadn't covered it, they did a $2.5 billion renovation at the Federal Reserve Building? They did a $2.5 billion renovation. Now, this story broke last week, but, with all the other noise. Well, they may try to now first of all, what the hell is that even about? So now they may try to use that as leverage and say, well, gee, Jerome, we'd hate to investigate that. We'd hate to see if there's not a prosecutable offense there in your name. So, maybe just lower interest rates. Now, I'll come back with that with some of this other economic news, because it's really just insane, the current status we have in our economy, especially for young people. And this is why they feel so disenfranchised and why they would consider voting for a communist. But I try to explain. It's like, look, I'm no communist. I'm never going to vote for a communist. But I listen to other people and I understand other people and I hear their points of view. And so, yeah, you have to understand, not everybody's like you. So they've given up. They feel that America has given up on them. So they just figure, I'll vote for a communist, whatever. I can't afford a house. I can't afford a car. There's no future for me. I'll be broke forever. Why not just vote for a communist? So that's a real big issue for the future. But I'll show some numbers that are shocking. Folks, remember, brand new limited edition dagger right now on sale put it on the screen, guys. Trump calls Wall Street Journal to kill Epstein story. Never doubt me, folks. What did I literally say yesterday? And then today. I told you this stuff was inevitable. I told you behind the scenes they were trying to buy people off and get this thing spiked, but it wasn't going to happen. It's a really strange time. It's definitely not boring. And, part of you is like enjoying the opportunity in a challenging time like this to show your loyalty is to the truth, to display who has integrity and who doesn't, who's really, how should I say it, media and who's just cheerleaders. But, it's not a personal thing to me. I don't take politics personally. I could sit here and be like, wow, look at how hard we fought for Trump, and then look at how bad it's gotten so quick. Really doesn't even bother me. But I'm telling you, folks, there's a full-fledged effort to try to bury multiple stories right now, and it's not going to happen. I'm just telling you. And even if you get the Wall Street Journal to spike it, or they're not the only outlet with the story, okay? And I will tell you that even if they get, whether it's from the FBI, the CIA, or the White House, even if they get one or two of these major news outlets to bury the story or spike it or not publish it, independent journalists already have the story. They already have it. And people are like kind of upset with me. I just have integrity as a journalist, a member of the media, and I don't scoop other people. I don't steal other people's leads. I don't steal other people's stories. A lot of other people do that. And a lot of times it ends up burning sources, burning bridges, and even ruining a story. So I just don't do that. And I'm getting messages last night, tonight, tell us who it is. Tell us what's going on. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. You'll find out. I promise you'll find out. But there's one. There's one. It's not the only one. It's not the only one. And I'm telling you folks, they're scrambling. They're scrambling bad. I told you yesterday, told you an hour ago. It's just unbelievable to watch how badly they blew this deal. It's so bad. It's like, it's so bad that you almost can't even believe it. It's so bad that it's almost, you almost start to think it's intentional. That's why I had this meme today. I don't know if you guys can pull it up or you can put it on a doc cam. It's like we're in a tug of war for the Epstein files now. This is why we're in political bizarro world. We're in a tug of war for the Epstein files. And then we look up at who's on our side pulling the rope, and it's Democrats. And we're like, wait, what? Well, okay. And then you look at who's pulling the rope the other way, and it's the Trump administration. And we're like, what the hell? What bizarro world did I just wake up in? And I see all the different commentary on this, and it's just a bunch of losers, quite frankly. Like, if you're agreeing with Democrats, then maybe you're on the wrong side. Or you know what? Maybe the issue is so obviously bad that everybody agrees with it except you. You ever stop to consider that one? They tried to do the same thing with the Israel deal. Oh, you must be a Democrat. You're a liberal. No, maybe Israel's actions in the Middle East are so evil right now that it's like, obviously you stand against that if you have any moral compass. Oh, look at you. You're with the liberals with the Epstein list. You're with the liberals on the Israel issue. Maybe you're just with the bad guys. Maybe you're just with the pedophiles. Maybe you're just with the war criminals. You ever stop to think about that? It's kind of like an old joke I've said before. Muslims and Jews don't really agree on much, but you know what? They agree on one thing. They don't eat pork. So are you going to say, oh, boy, I'm eating more pork now? No, maybe you say, you know what? Maybe they're on to something. Maybe if those two groups that probably don't agree on much at all, maybe if they don't like pork, maybe there's a good reason for that. So, guys, who's actually reporting that at the top of Drudge there? So former right-winger turned left-winger turned substacker Oliver Darcy. Hey, look, Darcy's obviously a clown, but he does have White House sources. He does have D.C. sources. He probably has, I don't know if he has the same sources as me, but probably similar. Oh, man. Folks, look. You have three types of people in D.C. that are going to be making moves right now. Just so you understand when all of this goes down. You've got your Trump loyalists that will do whatever the Trump administration wants. For whatever reason, access, clout, they think it's the best, trust, whatever. So you've got the media in D.C. that will just do whatever the Trump administration says, whatever the Trump administration wants. Then you have the people in D.C. that really aren't loyal to anything except getting the story. You might argue these are the people with the most integrity. They're not really politically motivated, but they want stories, they want scoops, they want to break big news. And then you have the people that will just do whatever it is that's hot. And you could probably lump like anti-Trump liberals into this too. So you could probably lump like Darcy into that. It's just like, oh, the Epstein thing is hot. Let's just get a story on that. The people in D.C. that aren't loyal to any political movements, whether they're right or left, they're going to break these stories. And you might be able to shut it down at the Wall Street Journal, and you might be able to shut it down at other networks. I'm not going to say. I mean, you heard Alex Jones. They called Alex. You heard Candace Owens. They called Candace. So you now have, I'd say like 5, maybe 10% of this administration's energy is now focused on trying to stop stories from going out.